Hi y'all, welcome back to this video on the core concepts of consequentialism. We begin our work in normative ethics with consequentialism, the family of ethical theories that says that the morality of our actions depends on their producing the best overall results. This means that the moral rightness of our actions is determined entirely by outcomes. Consequentialist asks, what will happen because of this action? If the results are good, then the action is morally right. This family of theories includes several variations: act consequentialism, rule consequentialism, ethical egoism, altruism, effective altruism, and utilitarianism. So let's take a look at this core idea of consequentialism. The morality of actions, policies, motives, or rules depends on their producing the best actual or expected results. Now, this comes from Russ Schaefer Landau's book, The Fundamentals of Ethics. It gives us this clear and reliable foundation. Consequentialism tells us that actions, policies, and motives are morally right or wrong depending on how much good or bad they produce. This framework shifts moral focus from why you act or what rule you follow to what actually results from your actions. It's a forward-looking, evidence-based approach that requires us to reason carefully about outcomes and the well-being of all who are affected by them. According to act consequentialism, the right action in any situation is the one that produces the best actual or expected results compared with all other available actions. So, each act will be judged by its specific results. And as you see on the slide here, the thing that's morally right, you have to remember, is the action that produces the best outcome available in those circumstances. And remember here, we're comparing actual and expected results. We don't have to worry about intentions. Your intentions do not make something moral. It's the outcome that is what morality depends on. Rule consequentialism shifts the focus from single acts to general principles. An act is right if it conforms to a rule that, if widely followed, would bring about the best consequences for everyone. So, for example, a society where people keep promises will typically enjoy more trust and stability than one where promises mean nothing. Let's talk about egoism and altruism. First, psychological egoism is a theory about how humans behave. So it's describing what it thinks is human nature. According to psychological egoism, humans always act out of self-interest. Now, that's not an ethical view, it's a description. It's explaining what it thinks as far as human behavior. Ethical egoism, on the other hand, is an ethical theory. It's telling us how we should act. So with ethical egoism, it says that we should act in whatever way it is that will advance our own rational self-interest. So that's a normative theory. Ethical egoism is an ethical theory. Psychological egoism is a theory about how humans behave. It's a theory about human nature. Those are two different things. We're focusing on the ethical theories. The next thing that I want to point out here is that ethical egoism is the opposite of altruism. So with ethical egoism, the focus is doing whatever we can to act in our own self-interest. Altruism is its mirror image. So there, with altruism, we value the well-being of others for its own sake. So you need to do whatever it is that will optimize others' well-being. All of these theories involve consequences, but they differ on whose good counts morally. And remember again, psychological egoism is a descriptive theory. It's just stating what it thinks is the case. Ethical egoism and ethical altruism are both saying what should be the case. Among all consequentialist theories, utilitarianism is the most widely accepted and historically influential. So, utilitarianism was developed by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. They combined the hedonist view that pleasure is intrinsically good with a universal focus on the common good to increase social welfare. So when you think about utilitarianism, according to Bentham and Mill, it's helpful for me, and it might be helpful for you, to keep that in mind. It's a combination of hedonism, seeking pleasure as the intrinsic good, plus the common good, the idea that we need to look out for everyone and not just for one person. Jeremy Bentham designed a systematic way to measure moral outcomes, and he called this the hedonic calculus. He thought that every pleasure or pain could, in principle, be assigned a weight based on intensity, duration, and other measurable features. For Bentham, morality and legislation should follow this same calculation. Choose whatever course yields the highest net happiness for society. John Stuart Mill agreed with Bentham's aim, but disagreed on one key point. Not all pleasures are equal. He insisted that pleasures engaging in the intellect, imagination, and moral feelings are actually superior in quality to physical pleasures. As Mill famously wrote, "It's better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied." For Mill, the worth of happiness depends not only on how much pleasure we feel, but on what kind of pleasure we are experiencing and what kind of being we experience through that pleasure. When applying consequentialism, our reasoning needs to be inclusive and comparative. We have to consider all of our possible options, all of their possible consequences for everyone affected, and then we have to choose the one that creates the best overall balance of good over bad results. In addition to that, the way that we have to make this decision is from the perspective of a disinterested third party. So with utilitarianism especially, the way that we're supposed to make the decision is we're supposed to remove any kind of self-interest from the equation. So these focuses on outcomes make consequentialism uniquely pragmatic, but as we're going to see later, it's also quite controversial. Now, consequentialism does have real strengths, so it offers us a clear decision procedure for difficult moral problems, and that makes it useful in law, medicine, and politics. So another thing is what I was saying earlier, it's impartial, so it counts everybody's well-being equally. Consequentialism is also flexible, so new information about likely outcomes can change our moral judgment, and that makes it adaptable to complex real-world cases. Despite all of the positive attributes of consequentialism, it does face persistent challenges and tensions. Consequentialism can appear unjust, allowing harm to an innocent person if that harm increases the total happiness of most people. It assumes that we can predict outcomes accurately, which is actually rarely true. Critics also say that consequentialism risks justifying the statement that the ends justify the means. So you can engage in awful acts as long as in the end you get the overall good results. Finally, consequentialism can be really demanding because what it does is it requires that we have to act to produce maximum good, even if that comes at great personal cost. Remember, we have to make these decisions as an impartial third-party observer, not as us. And that's incredibly challenging. Before we move on, there are a few questions that you might want to pause and think about when it comes to your own moral reasoning. When you decide what's right or wrong, do you instinctively think about intentions, rules, or outcomes? Consequentialism centers on outcomes, but that focus raises important questions. Does ignoring motives or duties leave something out of our moral understanding? Try to connect this to your lived experience, moments when doing what felt wrong might have helped others or prevented harm. And finally, think about uncertainty. Since we can't foresee everything, how much moral responsibility do we have for unexpected consequences? All right, y'all, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you would like to watch more videos about consequentialism or other topics in ethics and philosophy, take a look at the videos posted on our channel. We'll see you next time. Y'all have a great day.